Jenne.
Our second platinum sponsor is Simon Dudley. Simon is the grand poobah of video conferencing, an executive with over 20 years of experience in sales and marketing of high technology. Simon is the spokesperson for LifeSize and evangelizes how video communications can help drive social collaboration and excel business success. Over the 9 years he has been with LifeSize, Simon has held roles in North American Sales Director, National Partners Product Manager, EMEA Sales Director, Regional Sales Manager, and Global Accounts Manager. Prior to joining LifeSize, Simon held a number of senior sales management positions within the high-tech arena. Simon holds design patents for intellectual property for his participation in the invention of designs in 3 LifeSize products. Please welcome Simon Dudley.
Morning all, I'm Simon Dudley. As you can tell by all the different jobs I've had at LifeSize, they say a moving target's more difficult to hit, and certainly if you keep changing jobs that can't work out, you don't know what you're doing. So I wanted to talk to you today about a number of things. It's going to be tangentially about LifeSize, but mainly it's going to be about video communications generally and the opportunity in it. There's an old phrase that, in fact it's an old Chinese phrase, that the symbols for danger and crisis combined are in fact the same sign as for opportunity. And I think that that's interesting. The world has changed dramatically in the last few years, and many of us seem to have ignored it when we think that the old way of living our lives is the way to continue. Now I do also apologise for wearing a suit. I couldn't wear plaid, it just doesn't go with my eyes. and the gecko suit's in the dry cleaners. So, and I won't do it in a Chicago accent. So here's a funny thing. We all think we all live in a world that's changing a bit. But did you know every minute, 48 hours of movies are updated to YouTube. In fact, YouTube is now the world's largest search engine. And we all think that we all use cutting-edge technology by using a bit of instant messenger in our offices, where all our kids are using this technology all the time. And we all think that, oh, we did a video call the other day. Did you ask any of your kids? They did video calls every day last week. And the world is changing, and when they come into work, they'll expect you to have that technology available to them. And they find it an anathema that we all sit there using telephones. As the chap from Avaya said, using a telephone, really? What an odd idea. So one of the things that LifeSize is trying to do is change the world. And I've been involved in video conferencing since 1992 because I wanted to change the world. I actually used to sell colour printers. I lived in Australia for a number of years, and for reasons we won't go into. And the boats transporting people from England there had stopped, but they sent me there anyway. So I moved to Australia for a number of reasons, and I saw a video conferencing machine. And I want to explain why I got involved in the video conferencing industry. But more than that, I want to explain to you today 3 things to take away from this presentation. I want you to understand that the now is not sustainable. The lives we all lead, we cannot continue to lead, or if we can, we can't stop the rest of the world wanting to have the lives we lead and expect them to be satisfied with less. And the lives we lead are also unsustainable in the fact that all your organisations want you to be 20% more productive next year, and 20% more the year after, and 20% more the year after that. Well, how are you going to do that? You're going to work harder? Working harder doesn't really work anymore. Everyone I know works more hours than they're possibly prepared to continue to do. We have to do something different. The other thing I want you to understand today is quality matters. If the quality of the experience isn't above a certain level, it doesn't work. And then I want you to go after this and see the Jenne people or LifeSize, we're here as well today, and go and get a demo. Because you won't believe this stuff until you see it. And once you see it, you cannot believe how you will change your customers' lives with it. So let's talk about the now is not sustainable. Did you know it takes 125 times more of the Earth's resources to bring an American child up from the age of 0 to 16 than it does an Indian one? So we can all sit there and go, well, we're all okay, but the Indian middle classes will be bigger than the American middle classes within 30 years. There will be more than 300 million Indians who have a net income of more than $30,000 a year. Are they all going to live in nice houses with air conditioning, with big cars? Well, no, there's not enough room. The other thing to consider is we've all got the same amount of time in our lives. And I've noticed that I've been in business now for 25 years and planes aren't any faster than they used to be. In fact, the only really fast plane we ever had, we stopped using 3 or 4 years ago. So we're all still stuck at 500 miles an hour. You think, well, everything in technology has increased dramatically, but my plane hasn't. It still took me, obviously I live in San Diego, you can obviously tell. And I flew here, it still took an hour. Would have taken an hour 35 years ago. It would have cost more, but it still took an hour. So that sustainability of doing more with less is going away. Bill Gates still has 24 hours a day in his life, so do I, because every one of his hours is more valuable. So as we become more valuable, we need to do something more than getting on an aeroplane. And this whole idea of, oh, well, I can do Wi-Fi on the aeroplane now. Oh yeah, you're so productive on that 100k down, 7k up internet connection. By the way, people get really upset to try a video call on there. Really upset, because the whole rest of the network collapses. The other thing to consider is America talks all the time about, oh no, what happens when gas gets to $6 a gallon? And Europe, it's all right for Europeans, Europe's little. You guys don't drive anywhere. I was actually on a forum the other day where someone said, well, Europeans all don't drive anywhere. What kind of crack are these people smoking? Of course they do. Everyone drives about the same number of miles every year. I was in the UK the other week, seeing family, it's $8.70 a gallon. Not many F-150s on the roads in the UK. What do F-150s do that way? Why do people decide, I need to buy an F-150 to transport around nothing in the back of my pickup truck?
Just in case.
Indeed, just in case, yes. In case what, we won't go into. So video communication is a bit like nuclear fission. Has always been the technology of the future. People have always said, oh, it's coming. Watch any 24 or science fiction program. Video conferencing is in all of that, but it's not in every one of your customers' offices. It's probably not in all of yours. Why isn't it? Funny thing is, video communications always used to be the future, and now it's actually the present. You could do this, and I'm going to talk about why you want to do this for your clients. So 9 years ago, we started LifeSize. In fact, I was employee number 5. Which sounds like a movie, but isn't. And we started the company, and Craig Malloy and I, and Michael Canoy, who was our CTO at the time, we all sat around Craig's kitchen table, and he described what high-definition video communications would be. And I said, that's great. What's high definition? It's funny, isn't it? Now, everything's high definition. I was in Kearney, Nebraska last year with Bruce, who's out there somewhere and slightly frightening me, but I can't see him because of the lights. And we were out, I mean, believe me, Kearney, Nebraska is the middle of nowhere. The people are lovely, but as the lady in the hotel said, we're 1,760 miles from San Francisco or New York. And I pointed out, so you really are in the middle of nowhere. And I think she's still crying about it. I feel terrible. But anyway, they had high definition. Everyone does. No one has an NTSC TV anymore. NTSC for us, I'm an Englishman, not a European, but in Europe they use PAL. NTSC stands for never the same colour twice. It was always a joke how bad the quality was. But you watched it, 160 hours a month your average American watches of television. And your amount of TV didn't go up, by the way, just because the quality went up. You watched it anyway. It's all high definition. It's all the same crap. It's just in high definition. So anyway, when we started LifeSize, I had the best job in the world. I got a job for a company that didn't have a product for 2.5 years. And the best thing about that is I signed a contract with Malloy. I said, Craig, that's great. Now, you go and build the product and I'll be back. Keep paying me, but I'll be back when it's ready to ship, right? And I'll go out and, sign people up and sell things. He said, no. He said, you need to go and build a thing that people want to buy. And you need to find out what they want, Otherwise, the engineers will build the world's best coat hanger cigar lighter. And no one wants that, although actually it does exist. But sales aren't doing very well, and Jenny decided not to take it on. So, I can't talk about that. So what I did, I went around and asked people what they wanted, and a particular gentleman was endemic of what we experienced, but he was also very influential. This fella, it took me months to get to meet him. He was a very senior guy at a very large news organisation. And I asked him, what do you think of video conferencing? And he looked at me and said, what are you doing in my office? And I said, well, I booked you with your secretary and I've got 20 minutes of your time. He said, you must have important friends. I don't know who you are. Now, what do you want? And I said, well, I want to know what video conferencing you think of it. Now, this company had 90,000 people in the organisation and 500 and something video conferencing systems globally. So they were a big player. And I said, what do you think of video? And he looked at me, completely bored out of his mind, and went, video conferencing is a useful tool and we use it extensively. And I thought, well, this isn't going so well. So what do you really think? He goes, honestly, it's a load of crap and everyone hates it. And the trouble is, we borrowed rather a lot of financial, VC funding money by that point. So the idea of ringing up Malloy and saying, we haven't got a product here, it's a bad and give them the money back, was not an option. We had to do something else. So I asked him, what makes this technology useful? And he said, you've got to build me something that is indivisible from a window to another place. You've got to make the quality so good the technology goes away. In fact, Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And we needed to produce a technology that was so good they forgot that there was any technology in the middle. And that's what we think we achieved, and we did it 6 years ago, and half of you here have worked that out, and the other half here will work it out in the next 26 minutes. But that's my job, to convince you that this is something that you want to go and show people, because it's amazing. Now, the other reason I got involved in video communications is because in 1992 I was living in Australia and my dad wasn't. Surprisingly, he's a Londoner. He was living in London. And I wanted to keep communications up with him. And that technology then was $250,000, and it cost about $15 a minute to make a video conference call. So the idea of putting a $250,000 solution into his house and $15 a minute to ring him really wasn't very good. In the last 15 years, 20 years now, it's changed. And now I talk to him pretty much every day. And that makes a big difference when you're 6,000 miles from home and he's got less than a year. And you can change people's lives with this stuff, as well as make some money. This is not like a telephone. You do not leave a sale with this technology and go, oh, well, I sold them another phone, tick the box. You'll change people's lives. And we'll talk about some of the people we met in Carney later, because they were great. So let's talk about quality for a moment. Quality is a funny thing. Who here has a tape deck in their car that they ever listen to anymore? Ridiculous technology. Who 20 years ago used to, maybe 30 years ago, looking at some of the crowd, used to take a tape deck and record the top 40 or whatever it was off the radio on a Sunday night, or whenever it was on here? Everybody did, in my experience. And nobody I met at school ever went, oh, well, can't possibly have a tape deck, the quality's simply not good enough. Oh, that's rubbish. It was good enough right until the point where you heard something better. In fact, the thing that ruined my record collection was the first CD I ever heard. It's true for everyone. Let's talk about VHS tapes. Who here's got a VHS tape? If you were wise, the moment that you saw a DVD for the first time around a friend's house, you rushed home and shoved every VHS tape you got on a tray at the next car boot sale or swap meet, because you knew everyone would do it sooner rather than later, betting that you get ahead of the curve. CDs replaced tape decks incredibly quickly. VHS tape was consigned to the bin by DVDs. What's interesting though is beyond a certain level, the quality of the experience can get so good that actually other things become useful. So I'll explain. One of the main reasons Blu-ray hasn't kicked off is not because of the standards laws, because most people went, DVD's good enough, and really what I actually want now is ubiquity. I want to be able to watch a film now. I don't want to go to a store. To go to a store and rent one? What kind of ridiculous idea is that? Blockbuster, as an example. That was a great business model, wasn't it? Yeah, what about the internet? Who? Oh dear, we're bankrupt. Was Netflix worth this week? I don't know, lots more than Blockbuster, I can tell you that. So, things to consider is, the world changes when you're not even looking. You're sitting there, your kids are using technology that's probably 10 times better than anything you've got in the office. But you spend all this money on all these super duper implementation plans in the office and all this highly sophisticated UC stuff, and you look over and your kid's doing it on a Nintendo. You go, hang on, how's he doing that? And when he gets to work, he's going to expect it. So this is the sales pitch for LifeSize. Don't worry, there's only one slide. We do lots of different solutions, everything from an iPhone to an iPad to an Android to a small desktop to a big desktop to big rooms. That was the sales pitch. The sales pitch is this afternoon in detail. Come to that. So one of the things that people often say to me is, oh, you're in video conferencing. Oh, all those big banks have got that, haven't they? And I saw that once with that thing with Jack Bauer in it, which I've never seen, but I'm told it's very impressive. Cisco paid $11 million for a 30-second slot in that once. Not bad. It's a lot of money, really. But no real people are buying this. Well, what I did, we got about 80-something stories about what our customers have done. We've got thousands in reality. We've got about 30,000 customers or something mad. And they use it every day and it changes people's lives. And I just wanted to give you a couple of videos of showing what people actually do with this technology. I also do that because you're all Americans and you all watch TV. Right? Good guess. Every 6 minutes you get bored and you have to look at something else. However good the show is, and I'm not that good a show, I'm not as good as House. He is English, you know. Anyway, a lot of people don't seem to know that. So I'm going to show you a couple of quick videos, and then I want to talk about how people actually use this technology in the real world who aren't major banks or huge pharmaceutical companies. They're normal organizations who just need to do something better.
And it's always been owned by two families, privately owned business. Currently owns 12 television stations, 2 newspapers, some radio stations, and a number of other smaller properties. But communications is our business. The economy of the United States and the whole world changed in 2008 and 2009. Q and I, like any other business, had to figure out how to maintain and be a very viable business even during tough economic times. We did have an airplane that we used. We found that it was just not cost effective. We still needed another way for us to talk to vendors, to talk to our own company internally. In early 2008, we started looking at conferencing systems again, high definition systems, and realized that the product had really matured. We looked at what's going to be the most cost effective to purchase, operate, and how can we leverage our existing IT infrastructure to make it work effectively. We felt that LifeSize was that product. As you know, there's been a transition in the television broadcasting business to switch to digital transmission. We decided to go ahead and make the switch on February 17th, even though the nationwide date was moved to June 12, 2009. Our ability to get together and meet face-to-face with all of our stations via LifeSize made that task possible. We accomplished more in about 4 or 5 hours than we ever could have had we had a plane and the weather behaved perfectly. So not only was a huge financial ROI, but the time that it has saved has been enormous. And time is money. LifeSize is awesome.
Another example I'll give you. And it actually touched me, this one. I was with Bruce in Nebraska, and it was, believe me, they didn't know what planet I'd come in from, right? They don't see people like me. I was wearing a gecko suit at the time, so it was easily scared them. And I had this lady come up to me and say, you know, you've really transformed people's lives. And I said to her, well, that's great. How? And she said, in rural Nebraska, which is another way of saying Nebraska, there is obviously, like there is in every society, there's a deaf community. And a lot of the kids are out in the middle of wherever, Nebraska. And they don't get to meet any other deaf kids all their lives until they go to college. Because they're probably the only one in their school, even if they have a school, they're often homes-taught in that kind of rural location. And they never meet any other deaf kids. So, yes, typically the rest of their family end up learning sign, but it's not the same. You can't have the same experience. And you can imagine, to be honest, being a teenager in Nebraska, they made a film about that, didn't they? Footloose or something? I don't know if that was Nebraska, but being a teenager in Nebraska must be pretty lonely, or could be. Being a deaf kid in Nebraska, that must be lonely at a level that none of us could probably understand. Video conferencing, and LifeSize specifically, once we got the quality good enough that we could connect these kids and use sign on it, which we could with our high definition technology, which they couldn't previously, we changed their lives. And that was cool, and that was good. And did we start LifeSize for some philanthropic reason? No. Is it nice that we can make these things happen? Absolutely. You can't do that selling someone a piece of AV equipment or selling them a telephone.
The product we make with the baby mainly is on the children's furniture side. Everything to do with raising the baby. And the manufacturer headquarters located in China. We have complete 12 hours time differences. That means our 8 p.m. is 8 a.m. and people come to work.
They all have worked on projects over the night while we are asleep, and then we see the progress that happens the following morning. So it's kind of like we're able to work, basically 24 hours a day on projects.
Working with people from the US, people in China especially, it's often quite a challenge. It's a tremendous help since we have LifeSize.
Last year I went over to China probably 5 or 6 times. I've only been once this year, so.
Using the LifeSize equipment is best compared to the face-to-face meeting. A lot of the time we feel like they're just in the next room.
Here we solve the problems back and forth instead of what would take 5 or 6 days to work through a situation. We can, by having a meeting, we can solve it within minutes.
LifeSize for us is making the world a lot smaller.
LifeSize makes us more productive as a business.
A good baby, now we use LifeSize as the substitution word of video conference. Because we will LX tonight.
I apologise that the fellow who made LifeSize at night also appears to live in a cave. But there you go. So there are real companies using this technology, and there's a real opportunity out there, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. In fact, I'm going to skip my last. I've got a little video about some fellas who do something with gene splicing. Frankly, I don't understand it, so we can go away from that one. Good, that worked. Okay, so one of the things that everyone needs to think about is that I'm sure the folks of here, there's a number of folks here, and I was lovely to hear Scott and Ian's statements earlier. In fact, I almost felt like standing up here, say thank you, my work is done, and sit down again. They were very pleasant about what the opportunity with LifeSize is. But many people will turn around and go, well, yeah, but video conferencing, it's all AV and networks and IT and stuff and that, and we don't know anything about it. Well, we can help fix that. Some of the panel this morning were talking about the way that they can't send people on courses. Now, Jenne run courses on LifeSize. They can help a lot. They can get you on your feet. Think of them as the training wheels. Jenne can do a great job of putting you on the training wheels, and at some point, the training wheels will come off, and the hand will come off the back of the saddle, and you'll be away. The other thing, I think Scott made a lovely point this morning. Start small. If the first deal that you want to do with video conferencing is with Bank of America, probably your chances of success are fairly low. Go and find some people, we'll talk about them all in a moment. Go and find people you already know who will love this stuff. So I've got a little video. We do a whole bunch of really cool, in fact we've won awards for it, online training stuff, and we've got a little video about it. So one of the things our competitors will tell you about, they'll always stand here and tell you about some enormous organisations that they've interacted with. Now, looking around the room as I did last night, but it was all right early on. Anyway, it was a great party, thank you again. Really, these Uber organisations, they're great. Cisco's there. I don't know about you, I don't really, if I can help it, I don't want to compete against Cisco. The sweet spot for what we do is in the 50, I think Ian said it earlier, the 50 to 500. I'd extend that to the 50 to 2,000 person organisations. The opportunity that we can do together to change these people's lives is dramatic. And it's interesting because they don't already have, in many cases, a video conferencing budget. They'll have a budget for their telephony. They'll have a budget for their servers. They won't have a budget for video, and that's excellent because you get the opportunity to go and create one. And you do that by going and find business people who have a problem. So let's talk about a lesson from history. 25 years ago, I joined the world of business at the age of 9. Unfortunately not. Time has moved on very briskly. I don't know where I was. And in those days, fax machines were brand new. And I had a job, I left school with nothing at all. 18-metre swimming certificate and a digging degree. And businesses in those days used to have a lad in a van who would drive between their different offices moving the mail around, the internal mail around. And now everyone thinks that's an anathema. Well, think about all those emails that you sent to all your colleagues in other offices. You had to get there somehow. So what happened 25 years ago is the fax machine came out. Now, because of the summer, I got a job as a loading scaffold onto trucks. My end of school career really didn't end that well. I was loading scaffold on trucks, but I became very strong. And I could lift a fax machine because they weighed 100 pounds. They also cost $10,000 each. And what was interesting was that we would go and see organisations and we would ask them, or we would show them a fax, and people would turn up for a demo of a fax machine. Lots of them. Imagine that now. I'll put it over there. Then, I remember I had a client turn up with a manila folder full of papers and trying to put that in a fax. And I'm like, no, you need to do them one at a time. He looked at me, no, I want to do them a whole lot. No, it's a scanner, not a teleportation machine. Anyway, they just didn't get it. But it was a wonderful technology to show people, because you would sell them 2 fax machines, and they would typically be in offices 20 miles apart. If you turn around, and this is a lesson for you, if you turn around to someone and you say, you know that trip you do to Hong Kong every 6 months for 4 days, we can stop you doing that. They don't want you to stop you doing that. They like that. If it's that quarterly trip you do to London, all expenses paid, yeah, we can stop you doing that. No. If it's, you've got to be in Cleveland at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, that's the meeting we want you to stop. And nothing against Cleveland, I'm sure it's lovely. I was once told by a colleague of mine, that Detroit is Cleveland without the glitter. I'm going to read her and hope to keep it that way. So the fax machine market exploded. And it exploded for one reason, because it got into supply chain. Video conferencing hasn't got to that critical mass yet. Almost every customer you meet in the video communications business wants to talk to themselves, just like we did in 1986 with fax machines. The global market for fax machines in 1986, by the way, was 60,000 units a year. What did we do? We asked customers after they had it a month, and almost all of them were delighted with it because it stopped the lad in the van having to go anywhere. So guess what? They got rid of the van and the lad, which certainly helped with 1, crashing the van, and 2, with the way that the deliveries of the post would always be much slower in the afternoons because they'd have a liquid lunch and sleep in a lay-by. And the fax machine doesn't do that. And that market went for, so what we did, we asked the customer, name us 5 people you do business with, it would benefit you if they had this technology. And of course they loved doing this. It built them a better, closer relationship with their clients and a better, closer relationship with their suppliers. No one's doing that in video communications today. Why not? It's an obvious thing to do. Oh, and by the way, how successful was it? The fax machine market went in 2 years from 60,000 units a year to 1 million. 2 years after that, it was 2 million units a year. Now, of course, no one buys fax machines anymore, do they? Market last year for fax machines globally was 15 million. Amazing. I haven't used a fax in years. So, another thing people will tell you is, yeah, but the market's saturated. Everyone's already got video conferencing. Are you kidding me? You could throw darts at the yellow pages, if that thing still exists, for months before you find a customer who uses video conferencing. And even those biggest companies that do, the Reuters, the GlaxoSmithKline, the Banks of Americas, the Morgan Stanleys, 1% of their people use video communications. But if you go to your mid-sized customers that you already know, and you say, have a look at this. Do you think this may improve the way that you do business? And if you have a CRM system, for example, that shows that your customer has more than one office who you already know, well, go and show it to them. And you could transform the way that they do business. And it's not it's the San Francisco to San Jose journey. Because always isn't that joyful down 280, sorry. 290 is elsewhere. It's even worse on 290. It's not the transatlantic, it's not the trans-Pacific, it's small stuff. It's the ability to interact between one office and another that are 30 miles apart, because you don't want to spend an hour and a half doing the 30 miles to look at people for 2 hours and then drive back again. That's a whole day out of the office. Why not link them permanently? So people are, in the immortal words of potentially the next mayor of New York, waiting to give you their money if you can show them that this product and this sort of technology will improve the way they live their lives. And it will. It does. As an example, the fellow there went to China, didn't go to China once in a year, and he went 5 times a year before. I call that Mickey Mouse stuff. When we started LifeSize, I lived in London, and I used to go home from Austin, Texas, do my washing, come back. I don't know why I just didn't do the washing in Austin, it all got a bit complicated, but it doesn't matter. I did 32 trips on the cheapest seat on the worst airlines you could get for 2.5 years. 32 times I went to Austin in 2.5 years. As soon as we had a product that actually was usable, I didn't go. I went twice a year. So, it's an old phrase a friend of mine uses, but others have used it as well. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always have. So if you leave this conference today and go, yeah, video conferencing's really good, and then the phone rings and someone says, I need a PBX. Oh, okay. Nothing will change. You will be in the PBX world, which is a fine world to be in. I'm not suggesting people don't need telephones. But think about the way that you could transform the way that people live their lives, and think the way that you could transform your business by having something that adds to what you already do and builds you a better relationship with your clients. I'll give you an example. I met a client a couple of years ago. He ran an organization that sold these enormous poster printer type devices to these copy shops all around London. And because these copy machines are so expensive to run, he had a 2-hour maintenance contract on all of them. And 90% of the call-outs were people screaming, you've got to get here, the printer's broken, and it's because they fitted the inkjet cartridges wrong. And they were swear blind that they hadn't. So what did we do? We put video communications into all his customers' sites. And when the customer says, it's all gone wrong, you've got to get here, and they'd have a lad, you try and get across London in 2 hours. It's impossible. They'd have a lad in the van and a rocket sled ready to go, bang, off he goes. Total waste of money. Because 90-something% of the time, he'd say, well, let's do a video call. We'd look at it and go, no, you put a cyan with a magenta maybe. Oh, am I? Click. Customer was delighted. It fixed the problem in 10 seconds flat, not 2 hours. And it saved him a ton of money. And you know what? The guy never said to me, I want to be in the video business. No, I want to make my business better. And you've got to think about how you could do that with your customers. And I don't know all your customers at all, but I would be delighted to talk to you about use case scenarios and how, and I'm here for the next couple of days. You probably do it today because I'm on a horse tomorrow, so I'm either in ER or wherever. In a coma perhaps tomorrow. I'm not good on a horse. If you try and speak to me while I'm on a horse, I will ignore you. So I'll be hanging on. So think about it. Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to be the one who changes. If you want to take an opportunity, you take this opportunity, you need to do something about it. So LifeSize is changing the world. So are our competitors. They're doing it in the enterprise space. They're fine organisations. I mean, I can't really argue against a company with $30 billion in the bank. I could argue with how an organisation treats its resellers and its partners and its customers. But hey, if you're the Borg, act like the Borg. If you're a company that wants to help people with organisations between 50 and 1,000 people change the way they do their lives, then come and talk to us. So remember three things at the end of this presentation. The now is not sustainable. We all talk about it as if the world has an infinite supply of oil and space and room and, most importantly, water. Did you know that lawns are the biggest use of water in this country? It's the single biggest crop. Because we all decide we want an English country garden when we live in Arizona. Why? It doesn't make any sense. The other thing is quality matters. If the quality is not above a certain level, then it doesn't break the spell that they're not there. If they don't feel they're there, then they'll do what they've always done, which is get on a plane, get in a car, send them an email, get them on the phone. That's what our client said to us all those years ago. He said, look, why do I need video communications? If the meeting matters, I'll come and see you. If the meeting doesn't matter, I'll get you on the phone or I'll send you an email. That's how everyone does business. And if you can't break that spell with video communications, and you can do it, by the way, with high definition, we seem to have hit the right spot there for 95% of customers, then it transforms the way they live their lives. And you will only do that by demonstrating it to them. Now, I'm no expert, remotely expert on the PBX world, but my guess is you don't have to demonstrate how a telephone works very often. Here is the number one. If you want to dial a 1, press 1. It doesn't really, you don't really need that. And there's a voice at this end and a, no. Video you need to physically experience it. So you need to see it yourselves, and then you need to show it to your clients. And Jenne can help you do that. I have one last point. I'm using some new technology these days. It's not really that new. With Twitter. I would really appreciate anyone who has Twitter accounts to give me some feedback. My details are on the bottom of this. I'm always interested to know how to get better. So please do this. I will be talking in more detail, I think this afternoon or something. I'm here all week, but I'm talking again this afternoon, and I'm getting into a lot more detail about the LifeSize solutions at that point. And I think that's all I had to say. Thank you for your time.